Hi everyone. I was recently listening to a podcast that was very exciting to me. The podcast was NYC's Radiolab. It's a great weekly podcast. I really enjoy it. And this particular episode was called Musical Language. Now, those of you that know a bit about me know that my background is not in linguistics, but rather in singing and music. I studied weekly voice lessons in classical singing for well over a decade, and that really informs my approach to teaching pronunciation. This is an excerpt from that podcast.
This is Professor Diana Deutsch.
Diana Deutsch. Well, yeah, I'm going to turn down my headphone level. And I'm a professor of psychology at the University of California, San Diego.
Can you still hear me, Diana?
Okay. Hello?
Diana studies sound. How humans perceive sound. She's a scientist, she has a lab, but every so often she will also release CDs.
Right.
These CDs of audio demonstrations that she uses in her research, and that's why we called, because it was in the production of her second CD that she stumbled onto the weirdest phenomenon.
Well, I'll tell you what happened is that when you do post-production, as you know, of speech, you loop things, so that you can zero in on P's, put that sound too loud, you need to unpop, or S's that sound too sharp, and so on. So you put things on loops in order to fine-tune the way the speech sounds. So I had this particular phrase on a loop and forgot about it.
What phrase was this?
It's a phrase that occurs at the beginning of the CD in which I say, the sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible. Now, I had sometimes behave so strangely looped.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely.
Just those few words.
Sometimes behave so strangely.
And forgot about
Sometimes behave so strangely. Sometimes behave so strangely.
So here's what happened. Diana leaves her studio. She closes the door, goes into the kitchen to make some tea. All the while, this loop is whirring away in the background. As she's sipping her tea, she thinks, is someone singing? Who's singing?
I heard what sounded like song in the background.
She realized, wait a second. That's not singing, that's me. Talking.
That very phrase.
So strangely.
But at this point,
sometimes behave so
it
strangely.
appeared to be sung rather than spoken.
So strangely. Sometimes behave so strangely.
This is
sometimes behave so strangely.
Right? Yeah. You still hear the words, but they're sung words rather than spoken words.
It's weird, like it just switches at a certain point. 3 or 4 repetitions in.
Right.
It's going, and then pow! It becomes music. And then now none of us can get it out of our head. Like the whole office is like, sometimes behave so strangely.
Sometimes behave so strangely.
And you know what? If you do this demo and then you go back to the original sentence, it sounds like, speech to begin with. And when you come to that very phrase, I seem to be bursting into song.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible.
I have to say this can continue for months and months. It's sort of like your brain gets altered for that particular phrase, and it continues to sound like singing for a very, very long time.
And this is exactly what I try to do with my imitation exercises. If you've seen those, you know that I will loop something 3 times, a phrase or part of a phrase, and there will then be a gap for you to repeat it. And it's my hope that in that looping, you will take your mind out of, these are the words I want to say, and put your mind into, this is what I've heard pitch, rhythm, melody, and spit it back out the exact same way. Each language really has its own individual musicality to it. And if you learn all the right parts of pronunciation, but still do those American pronunciation parts within the musical language of your native language, there will still be something missing. So I hope with these imitation exercises that I can get you to hear the musicality of American English in a new way. So I just wanted to share this with you. I think the best way to study pronunciation is to really come at it from more than one direction. I think the intellectual part, where you understand the sounds physically and you understand the rules, is great, and we need to come at it from that way. But I also think we need to come at it from the other way, which is pure imitation, opening your ear to what you are really hearing. That's it, and thanks so much for using Rachel's English.